Hello and good morning. It's SIG Node CI subgroup meeting. It's Monday, September 14th. Hi, everybody. So today I wanted to start with the review of action items from the last meeting. I think most of items are already in agenda, so I just review really quickly what we have, and then we will go into actual agenda items. I didn't find any agenda items for first one. Check with Docker if they're still interested to run some tests. I think Roy on the call, and Roy was commenting on that before. Roy, do you have any update, or we just need to move it to next meeting? Hey, Roy. Okay. I think we can skip to the next one. Next one is to put documentation that we have into some of the community places, maybe contributors, Kubernetes.dev or community website. I have some updates. I went to Contribucks meeting and asked whether we can put it there, and the response was that I mean, specifically Joel was saying that he has a concern with keeping the documentation up to date. So I want to discuss briefly on this meeting what we can put that is likely to be stable, and what other places we have to keep this documentation. Next one, yeah, is the same, but yeah, I think it's two combined. Next one, duplicates of two nodes. I think Matt put a. Oh no, I mean, is this Amin? No, this one.
I had one down below, but then I saw you added that, so I just removed it.
Oh, you removed it from agenda. Okay.
I mean, I can put it back if you want to.
No, we can just move it forward. This is good. I just didn't know how to what's the best way to do that. So
sure.
I want to keep all the actions in the same place. So let's just copy for the discussion. Maybe after I meet. Okay. And yeah, and last one is come up with a critical test example, how to move. And I have some questions that I want to discuss. So bear with me. I put the action items there. So Roy, are you still there? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I guess we will discuss this next meeting. But I mean, first item is still on Roy. Is Karan joined? No. So I think the proposal from Roy and Karan to move from COS 81 LTS to COS 85 LTS. I know that on 85 we just hit a problem with containerd with Python version. Hopefully it's already resolved, and this should be working. So maybe we just migrate to 85. I don't see any reasons not to. So perhaps it just needs to happen. Anybody has more context on that? Okay. So let me follow up with Roy and Karan offline in case they have more information, but I think it's reasonable. Okay.
Roy has a technical issue to have his voice getting heard.
Yeah, I figured, because he showed on the call, and maybe he's trying to think that we cannot hear him. Anyway, we can discuss it in the end of the meeting if we're still here. Okay. So I mean, you have a next item.
Okay. So I got one of the items from the spreadsheet, and I came up with more questions than answers. So my first question about this, I got a GCE flaky. My first question is why this is running periodically, because it's only running flake tests. And if it was supposed to be solving or showing which one are flaky, what action items are being taken on the outcomes of this test results, you know.
Can you give more context on, like, did you figure out what this test, how critical it is from your perspective?
Yeah, can you open the task grid tab? Maybe it can be clear to show up. So there are two tests that are failing very often. One is from SIG API machinery. The other one that stopped to fail is the second one. This pre-stop graceful pod terminated. Should wait until pre-stop hook completes. So I have two questions about these tests in particular. The first one, why is SIG API machinery tests doing in this tab? Looks like is a wrong filtering. So I'm not sure what this one in particular is doing, but the second one, I could understand why this is flaky.
So for second one, you're saying that, oh, it fails sometimes, right?
It fails sometimes. So basically what's going on is that the container price stop hook is not obeying the graceful termination time of the main container. And the test is doing something odd that's testing a loop in this pre-stop hook, and it should be there running yet, even when the first pod terminates, or the first pod should be waiting for this pre-hook terminate. But that's not true. When you kill the pod in the graceful period of time, the pre-hook will not run, will not keep running. It will terminate with the first pod.
So is your question why it's sometimes green? So it's supposed to be red all the time?
I think the test is wrong. It's testing something wrong, because it expects that the pre-stop hook terminates before the first pod terminates. You know, the main pod running, when you do the pre-stop, there is a loop that keeps running, but this first pod kills and the pre-stop kills together. And the test is waiting that it keeps running even when the grace period terminates.
So pre-stop hook takes longer than grace period override, and it's being killed. Okay.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I would assume that pre-stop, like with the grace override, again. So first of all, we have a bug in Kubernetes that if its pre-stop hook is executable, then runtime wouldn't respect timeouts. So if it runs out of timeout time, then like it wouldn't be respected. But it passes sometimes. So I would suggest that it's not timeout issue. So a pre-stop hook, is it just a loop that never ends, or it's supposed to be ending?
No, it's a loop that never ends, a while true in the shell.
Then I'm confused how it ever worked.
Yes.
David, you just investigated something for termination. Do you have any idea, suggestions here?
Sorry. Yeah, I would have to look at the test in a little more detail. I'm not clear exactly what it's doing, but you're right that there was an issue with the pre-stop hooks just in general, not respecting grace period in Kubernetes. That there's a bug for that GitHub issue.
Yeah, so the deal is that should this be running or should be stopped? I don't know, skip it.
Yeah,
Because
based on description, I would expect that this test would test that we wait to pre-stop hook to complete. So there shouldn't be infinite loop, and then it terminates. So I would expect this supposed to be behavior here.
Yeah,
And
maybe
if there is an infinite loop, then I don't know how it's supposed to be working.
Yeah, just reading from the description of the test, it says the terminated should wait until the pre-stop hook completes, right? So it looks like the expected behavior. I'm not sure if it's actually behavior. Is that like the pre-stop hook will just, you know, the pod won't be terminated until the pre-stop hook finishes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how I read the description of the test, and it's very valid test. I would love to have it tested. The question is like maybe somebody changed this pre-stop hook description sometimes and like convert to infinite for some reason.
I sent in the chat what this is doing. It's very simple. Maybe you can check to get a better overview of the test.
Is there another test for pre-stop hook? No, there's just two. Oh, it's flaky test. So maybe there is another one that is not flaky. And I'm confused. It's in GCI. I would expect this test to be in because GCI is supposedly like Google image specific. Is it? What GCI stands for?
GCI is the old name of COS. So GCI and COS are the same thing. It's just old name.
Yeah. So I think these two are not supposed to be here at all. So I think, I mean, you're right with the first assessment that these two tests shouldn't be here at all. So they just picked up because they are flaky, and perhaps this test doesn't filter enough. Maybe it should filter by folder and flaky, and then it will be running what you want to be running. And then it will test entire tab will be green after that. So can you look into like filtering by folder for this specific test tab?
Sure.
So there are like 3 issues, right? First is check that tab is filtering by folder. Because name suggested it's about Google COS image, and pre-stop hook is clearly not testing Google COS image, right? Then pre-stop test investigation. Are you up to test to check on this to do this investigation why it's failing and what it's supposed to test?
Yeah, I have some presuppositions about this, but I think, as you say, there is a bug. If you have later the issue, we can bring to this discussion as well.
Okay.
There's a bug that until it fixed, the test should be skipped. I don't know, or refactored.
I would suggest to keep it-ish. So what I want to figure out is there another test that tests exactly what description says? If not, then this test needs to be updated to match the description. Because description is very logical. I really think that it needs to be tested.
Okay.
By changing infinite loop to constant word amount. That sounds good.
Yeah, maybe it will work if it's still inside the graceful period of the pod.
Mm-hmm. So Jorge, do you have a suggestion how else we can filter out this tab?
Sorry, I joined in late, so I'm like halfway through the conversation. I'm really just asking, like, what do you mean? What do you mean by check that tab is filtering by folder? I don't think I completely understood.
Yeah. So by the way, thank you for joining. I understand that there is a release 120 meeting right now, right? Is it concerning you? Do you have a hard conflict now?
Sometimes it depends on the day.
Okay, thank you for joining anyway. So context here is that this is tab called end-to-end GCI flaky, and it seems to be picking up all the flaky from API machinery and from SIG Node in general. So I think this pre-stop test is not supposed to be tested inside the GCI tab. That's why we wanted to filter by folder, so these two wouldn't show up here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, and sorry for the interruption.
No, it's very logical. So, and then next one is since this is flaky and this seems to be very important test, especially with all the sidecar work and termination work that we plan to do. I really want this test to stay and be active. So, I mean, if you can, I mean, right? Sorry, I was calling you I mean before. So if you can check whether there is another one that does the same, or maybe, yeah, so that would be very important to fix. I don't think we need to look at API machinery test. It's failing here, and it's out of scope of this group. So if you want to take a look, welcome, but I don't think we need to discuss it here. Trying to scope it out. Doesn't sound good? You are muted. Yeah. Thank you very much for looking into this tab, and yeah, I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Cool. So Matt, are you here?
Yeah. So I took a diff of the two different jobs, and there was a bunch of differences that didn't seem consequential, like setting resources, and some related to the fact that the conformance tests run in Docker. But I think I also found that set to skip serial tests in just like the node kubelet master, but it seems to skip it in both, and it seemed like there was an underlying flag in the Docker file that seemed to skip it. But the significant difference, as Amin pointed out, is that the conformance tests run in Docker, and the kubelet master don't. So I don't have the context of that, or what exactly we want to do about it, but you can read more details in my comment, but that seemed to be the main difference.
So your suggestion was to add some to rename the master tab. I think master tab is very logical.
Well, that was I think something that Amin brought up.
I think it's Morgan first.
Maybe.
Yeah, Morgan brought it up, and I put it as an issue. Okay. Does anybody have a context? What's the difference between running in Docker and versus running in on a machine? Do you know what the difference, Matt?
I mean, I don't know. My guess is just to, maybe the idea is that running a Docker would feel more like the real world. I don't know. I really don't know. There was a link to that, and maybe I could unearth a pull request or something that has more details, but yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
Checking up on this right now, but the one that's run the one that runs Docker in Docker, that is the kubelet master, not kubelet master.
No, that's a node kubelet conformance.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know, and yeah, and there was about 45 different additional test cases inside the master. I haven't had time to like track down exactly how they're different. But yeah, there's some additional ones that happen in the master.
When I just joined the group, I was thinking, like, the way I read this tabs is that master is what we do as ongoing basis, and once we release a version, only conformance test will keep running, so we don't run any master test any longer. Is it the right understanding?
Well, I'm not sure, but they're both run regularly. But
once we cut a release, like let's say we cut 119, and for 119 we only run conformance right now. We don't run 119 like release branch.
Not quite. For previous release branches, there are a good handful of jobs that the conformance are something that definitely has to show up on the previous releases, but a lot of other tests also make it in there. Usually, the thing that happens is that with jobs that have the word master in the name. For example, if you look at Matt's comment in GitHub, one of the first annotations is fork per release. So whenever the fork per release annotation is present on a prod job, it actually means that it's whenever a release is being cut, for example, node kubelet master is going to be copied into node kubelet 119, 118, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we stop running conformance tests. Do we? Is there conformance 119? So I see conformance for this release.
Can I ask a question? So Kubernetes has a conformance work group, right? Is this node conformance test has something to do with that? Just for ensuring all the committed changes conform with the high-level Kubernetes conformance standards. I'm not sure. I'm just asking. Is that the main purpose of this SIG Node conformance testing suite?
I'm not sure either, and that's why it also confused me when master, like comparing master and conformance tab, because I feel like I looked at how features being G8, so we remove the feature flag and remove this feature tag from a test, so it automatically falls into both conformance and master tab. So now, like any features that graduated became a conformance feature or conformance test. That's why it was a little bit strange for me. Like I didn't quite understood why, like, what's the difference between conformance and just master, like all the features versus conformance features. Like there is no visible difference there.
There, inside the configuration, there was actually one additional feature flag for the dynamic kubelet config inside the conformance. So it's possible that that like it is intended to run something a little different, but and in the dynamic kubelet config, that one Derek recommended removing it as well. So that if we did that, there'd be no difference for that.
Yeah, I remember comments there saying that dynamic config is used for tests, to configure tests dynamically. So I'm not sure whether it's, I didn't look into that. So it may be feature enabled to configure tests dynamically in runtime.
Yeah, so yeah. Maybe we can ask this question tomorrow, SIG Node meetings. They may have people who have been in here for longer, right?
It's actually a very good idea to escalate this, because like we're discussing this second week, and we can escalate it to SIG Node.
Yeah, and the kubelet master is release blocking, so I guess maybe that's significant too in terms of like enabling basically testing changes that we want to release or something with a conformance test, but then not actually setting them inside the kubelet master until we're ready. But yeah, it seems to make sense to bring it up in the meeting tomorrow.
Okay, I added an action item. Thank you for looking into that. It's very confusing, and looking more into test grid and which test we run, it's getting more and more complicated for me. So like more I understand, more I confused. And it's a nice segue to the next one, runtime class. So I was looking into making runtime class to be critical tests, because runtime class feature will be GA. So I wanted to understand how to move it into critical tab, or like this new tab that we created, like SIG Node critical. My problem with that was that runtime class as a feature runs in, like, some tests run as a orphaned, but I mean, we can fish it out of orphans, it's fine. And it was part of different tab. Like, and other test was run as part of master. So the question was whether we want entire master to be critical or we want to keep entire master separately. So I would say we need master as critical, but waiting for opinion. And third issue was that some tests are disruptive tests, and they used to be run as serial tests before, but then it was removed from serial tab because they're disruptive. So comment was like, these tests are disruptive, let's not run them as serial tests. So I wanted to ask the group, does anybody has any history with like understanding what the disruptive means and like how we historically run them? Can we run them as separate tab? How much overhead will it be if it's separate tab with all the like creation and destroying of environment? If it needed just for one test, one runtime disruptive test, is it worth it to create a separate tab, or we just need to ignore this test for now? Does anybody have a history understanding?
I think the overall comment that I could give is if runtime has tests that are maintained and are supposed to be meaningful, it will be worth it to run in a separate tab as a separate test, just to actually get the signal. I think that if there is the consensus that if tests are tests like this, if we get to the point where we can say that let's just ignore them because they are disruptive and that's why they flake every now and then, I think that might actually mean that we don't really need them.
So the issue is not that the test is flaking, the issue is that test changes environment because it creates some taints on the nodes, and these taints may disrupt other tests.
Yeah, sorry, that's kind of what I meant. Like, for example, if you're running a disruptive test, and usually disruptive tests, they are run serially, and I mean that's what I think that people do the most. So this is not a rule, but usually what I think that people do the most is a disruptive test. They run it serially and in a completely different tab, in a different job. Because they have they might make other tests fail randomly. But if any test is if a test is disruptive and if it causes flakes on other test, I think it will be worth it to move it. If it doesn't cause flakes, then might as well keep it in there, I think.
So it's a single test. Do we need to have so is your suggestion to take all the tests about runtime class and create a tab and then run it serially, or create a tab only for disruptive test? What's the best practice here? Because running all of them is logical because you see in one place all the tests about runtime class, but then you run them serially, so you slow down the execution and ultimately increase the cost of run. So running just a single test is less logical from discoverability perspective, but should be more efficient.
Is there really only one test?
Yeah,
Yeah. Do we know how many other disruptive tests we have in old SIG Node, or?
No, I don't. I can. Yeah, that is what other item. I saw in one of the documents that in this overview that somebody tried to create a tool to get all the test definitions from a KK repository, so we can at least know which test supposed to be run. So maybe I need to start running this tool and understand what's missing in our test grid. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, at the very least, I think should be yeah, at the very least I think it should be good to create a new tab for a new test. You know, if the test is meaningful and we don't want to disrupt signal from other tests, even if we only have one, and possibly create a tag for it that we can. For example, if we make a serial, then we can just run all the serial testing now in the same tab. But at least I would say I will vote +1 for for running the disruptive test in its own tab, even if we only have one of the sort right now.
Okay. Okay, I can take it. Okay. And next, any other comments about this? So yeah, and what you all think about moving like there is a master tab. Do you want to move master and create it under like market critical, so it will show up here? Will it make sense? Yes, still finding.
What is supposed to be SIG Node critical? What will be like the one-line description of it?
Something that we want to get email notifications about to start fixing.
Is which one did you mention? Kubelet master?
Master, yeah. So my question is mostly like there is a subset of tests that I'm confident that they probably needs to be moved, but there is no easy way to move a subset of tests under critical. You can only move entire tab. So options here is to create a like transition tab, see kubelet master transition, and then like transition test by test, or just, I mean, how crazy is the idea to create a tab for transition master test into critical?
In the grand scheme of things, I think it will make sense. What will be the end goal, or at least what's the end goal for right now? Are there some tests in kubelet master that we don't want to take as critical?
No, I just like, so transition to critical we discussed last time is not only just migrate add a dashboard definition for the test tab. We also wanted to increase description, like improve description of a tab. So we want to make sure that test has a good description, that tab has a good description, and we understand what we move into critical. So it's kind of like a revision of test alongside of just simple migration. That's why I wanted to do it like area by area rather than like take entire tab and just move it to critical.
Sounds reasonable to me. Though again, I feel like I'm speaking way too much, so I'll shut up and let others talk.
Any other opinion? We don't have many people on the call, so maybe there are not much opinions. Okay then. So I will create an issue to that and try to do it by area and see how it goes. And last question I wanted to discuss is place for documentation. Last time we discussed with, like Morgan wanted to take this action and migrate some of the documents into the community repository. Specifically, this document about like this document about description of tags that we use in tests. Because what I noticed that it's really hard to understand why these tags are needed, like what is not conformance, what is not feature, what is not alpha feature, and how to use it. So you have a document describing it, it will be really good. So I went to country backs meeting and suggested that we move this document to community repository. And Joel from, I don't know where he's from, but I can find the last name. He suggested that it may not be the best idea because from his experience, this kind of documentation get stale very quickly. So his suggestion was to find another place that is closer to code that describes the same. So I wanted to pull some opinions from this group. Like, do you want to push to move it to community and promise that we will keep it up to date, or we want to find another place, like maybe test infra repository?
I don't have any other suggestions other than community repo, but test infra, it feels that one feels I don't know if it feels a little bit. It feels a little bit odd. Like half the things that we are documenting, the bulk of what we are documenting actually lives in Kubernetes. Some of it, like the job configurations, actually live in test infra. So between test infra and community, some of the code is actually shared in test infra.
Okay, so Joe suggested that we created, like, I really like the idea to put it in community because it's super easy discoverable and it already has some documentation about end-to-end test. So in fact, there is an entire, like, there is a test, like how to run tests, how to write good conformance tests, how to write good end-to-end tests. It's mostly generic words about, like, please write them to be fast and don't use sleeps. But it's actually a good starting point. So I was thinking maybe we need to put it here. So it will be a very logical place. If people in the group feel it's the same, I will start conversation on countryback's Slack channel, suggesting that we want to do that and hear for more opinions than just Joel's. That sounds good.
At least I will vote. I will give it a +1 for actually having in the community repo for what you just mentioned. So another plus vote.
Okay. Hey Roy, did you fix your technical issues? I still see you on the call. Okay. Any other comments? Yeah, if you can add yourself to attendees list, it will be really helpful. So we can start tracking attendance and see who is interested in this work. I hope nobody very seriously affected with the smoke. And if you're in West Coast. Yeah, have a good and productive week. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Happy Monday.